Kathrin Cornelius. Our guest today brings more than 20 years of leadership experience in global industrial companies like Siemens and Thyssenkrupp. She says from herself that compliance is one of the most important topics that drives her. When it comes to the areas of quality management, sustainability and safety, Kathrin is the go-to person and expert. That is also how I met her years ago. Next to that, she chairs the Swiss Management Organization chapter of Central Switzerland and lectures at different business schools. But that is only what everybody knows from her. When I talk to my guests, I'm interested of what is not obvious, what is not written in the curriculum. I would like to look behind the scenes and learn about the human who impacts corporate integrity. Kathrin is the one we can meet in planes all over the world, visiting the subsidiaries and taking care of quality management and safety. Today, she has time for our conversation, and I'm glad to have you here, spending the next minutes together with us.
Corporate integrity, fraud, non-compliance, and cybersecurity. Would you like to understand the root causes, detect threats, and take measurements to protect the most precious assets? As a leader, you need to be prepared and stay actionable in the event of an incident. Sonja Stirnimann talks in her podcast, The Human Factor. Corporate integrity matters. To leaders and entrepreneurs who want to have impact, foster corporate integrity, and act as role models. As an international expert for corporate governance and integrity, entrepreneur, and independent board member, she knows the challenges. Let her inspire you.
Welcome back to this new episode of the podcast, The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters. You might be a board member, executive or non-executive, a business professional, corporate integrity leader, or on your way there. I'm your mentor and sparring partner when it comes to corporate integrity with impact. Founder of Corporate Integrity Concepts with the different formats for corporate integrity leadership. With the vision to protect and secure assets, reputation, and actionability. Yours and the one of your organization. Why? Because corporate integrity matters to all of us. But now let's listen to what Kathrin has to share in her field of expertise when it comes to corporate integrity. Hey, Kathrin, thank you very, very much for your time today. I know you are quite busy these days. I just heard that before, not only due to Corona, but quality management and safety are one of the key topics, keeping also leaders awake. That's what we both know. And you know me quite well, and also the fact that curiosity drives me too. So, as you know, our conversation will focus on you, your professional environment, and your own personal experience when it comes to corporate integrity. I hope that's still fine for you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have this talk with you.
So, you told me before that your leadership philosophy combines passion and courage for change. So, please let us dive into that, because the normal human doesn't want to change, but I know you also have a PhD in philosophy. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Please tell me what's behind your leadership philosophy.
Okay, so we humans are not there where we are without changing. So we have to change. We have to learn, and learning is one of the most interesting things we can do. But we have to go in the direction to be ourselves in this case. And learning about people, learning about processes where people can perform best, that is one of the things I think is very important. And when we look back in our history, we found out that there are so many things we had to change. And we are humans, we are dealing with humans. And bring them together means we have situations where we have conflicts, where we have thoughts about what can we do together so that we can grow together. But there we have as much possibilities to do good and bad as well.
Absolutely. I fully agree on that. But I think also you having more than 20 years of leadership experience, and especially in quality management and safety, what I see is it takes a lot that people change, you know?
Absolutely.
Often it's not they, it's we. We as human beings, we are reluctant to change because changing also means being insecure sometimes, not knowing what's coming up, maybe also fear of losing position, power, or whatever. So, what have
it's scary.
What have you seen also when it comes to quality management? Because I know how hard it is to implement quality management, especially in such large groups and companies as you served and also serve right now.
Yeah. So quality management is, let's turn it the other way around. A quality manager is not the one in a company who's doing the quality management, but the quality manager is the one who helps you going through processes. And we need processes to be compliant. So when we have like a frame to work in, we're working together with others. We have to ensure that people do what they have to do and that they can grow in that. But as well, we have to make sure that the process before and afterwards is going well, and that people in this processes knows about everything what the company needs. It's not about the person itself, but it's as well about the company. And it's hard sometimes that people understand that what they think is best for the company is not the best, because they just have a small piece of view of the company and they don't have the broader scale. So sometimes you have to explain people, hey, it's good what you're thinking, but follow the processes, because when you change the routes, it is a risk for the entire company.
How do you teach that? Because I know that thousands of people worked also in the departments you led, as from a quality perspective and a safety perspective. And I also had some experiences when I used to work at one of the larger industrial companies in the past, implementing internal control systems. You also have this cultural issue of what does safety and quality mean, and how did you or do you now make sure that you are understood? It's not just written, but also understood and lived.
On the one hand, you have to explain to people, you have to talk to people, you have to convince them, you have to show them. When you say safety, it's especially hard to be a safety officer in Switzerland, because there is nothing going wrong in Switzerland and we are all well educated and we are all doing very well. But
so again, Kathrin, are you serious when you say we have no problems here in Switzerland? Because I think it's just, how should I say, it's a mindset question, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, I was not serious about that. No, sometimes, and being honest, when I was in India or in China or somewhere else in the world where you would think people are concentrating less on quality, concentrating less on safety, they did much better than we are. So it's really a mindset issue. Yeah. How do I think about how I do, how I feel, how I think about it? When I just go into it and say, well, I'm climbing up mountains at the weekend, so I know how to climb up a building to do some changes, I would say, well, let's think about it. So it's really like you have to talk to people, you have to show them sometimes what can happen. So you have to show them the incidents you have to explain about the risks that come out. You have to explain what is image question when somebody is hurt.
Does it mean that we here in Central Europe, we are overconfident?
Sometimes we are. We feel so much. We feel that we are safe. So there's not like this big issues everywhere around that makes us like being aware about the risk.
And how could we train our culture to be more aware of what could go wrong? Because I think that's really also how we grew up, but we have experienced in the past that we have never been exposed to the same risks as other cultures were.
Yeah, and at the same time, we are facing all the things we're doing wrong. But I think it's like showing what can be the mistake, or what can be unsafe, or what can be turn on the quality. And then you say, well, look at this. And then look what can be the reaction out of it. And the most obvious thing is internet things. When you are posting anything about your company and being very transparent with your complaining about your company, most of the people are not knowing what the total effect is on the company. So it's not about lying about your company, but it's about being aware what is the thing you are saying, the thing you are doing, having for a reaction and for a result on the company.
Because that's exactly what you say. I think people are not aware of the impact they could have. Also, one person, what kind of, or what could happen if you expose your company, for example, and put them at risk. So how do you think does corporate integrity plays a role into that when it comes to quality management? I have my own view on that, but I would also like to hear your perspective. How does it impact integrity, individual integrity, but also corporate integrity?
So let's start with the thing of compliance. When we go back and we saw like what Siemens has gone through, and as well Thyssen has gone through with all these compliance issues, and being honest about this, we are still not fine in the entire companies though. So there were big programs, there were big process in it, but still people are thinking, well, there's a deal, and hey, come on, in Russia, when I go in a fancy restaurant, I can make the deal for our company. So most of the times the employees or even the high managers, which are trained on a regular basis, so in Siemens as well as in Thyssen, you are really, really trained every year. You have to make your tick boxes and have to make sure. And then it comes up to compliance. But integrity is really like coming out of yourself. It's like being convinced, being really having it internally in your DNA you have understood what it means for your company. You have understood what it has for an impact on your company when you're not following.
And knowing that training is not enough. That's also what I hear now, what you are explaining now. Training is not enough because one part is compliance, but integrity is much more. Integrity also includes compliance and the behavior we have within the organizations. How do you make sure that you have enough people in the teams with a very high level of integrity?
So one thing is to be a role model, to be really assure that you are reacting and dealing and showing a behavior and mindset that is integer. And then make sure in your team and in the entire organization that you're talking about this topic, that you're talking about the risk, but then going a step further in the HR processes to say, well, when somebody is doing a good job on compliance and who acts integer, just put him out and say, well, you did good, you did well. There's, for example, an incentive, or there you have your stage to be shining for a moment. Make sure that these people are seen in the organization as they are the good ones. They are the ones who have the interest of the management. So just make people like being proud of themselves when they are reacting positively and integer.
Absolutely. I fully understand. I'm fully aligned with what you are saying. What I see is that we are not yet there. We are not yet celebrating the people behaving in such a way. And also the speak up culture, I think some of the organizations, they do have it. Others just have it in the code of conduct, but not really living it. And I think it's very important that we really implement it in our DNA, and that we make sure that we are the role models, as you said, but that we really practice what we are praying right now. So what kind of experience did you made in the past 2 decades when it comes to the dilemma situations? The dilemma situations maybe also you had, because being so exposed in your environment, quality management processes, safety, and also sustainability, I would really expect that you had huge challenges, also dilemma situations you had to handle and manage.
Absolutely. And it's nearly on a daily basis in these topics. So what is when you know you have certification in front of you, you know that you can just do offers when you are certified. But at the same time, you know that your processes are not good enough for the certification. What are you doing? Are you saying, well, let's go for the easy way and convince the people that they have to give you the certificate? Or are you going to the way to say, well, we are not yet there, but we promise to make step by step, and let's deal about having 3 months more that we can show that we make progress. So there are dilemmas where you just stay in and say, well, you can go the easy way. It's even not that expensive. And so what is when you know that you are in a foreign country, like some countries we still know in Africa. And so you know that your competitor is having like fancy presents. So I really experienced a situation when I changed to ThyssenKrupp. The CEO who were asking me to come from Switzerland back to Germany, who was dealing like talking about a fancy, nice car via WhatsApp with the customer, and he had taken a really nice bracelet for his wife, and it was documented by photos and so on. So what was the result also out of it? We were in the middle of a change, really huge change, and a very big journalism went out, and it was in the press, so everybody could read about it, because there were a little misunderstanding between the two people. And the customer said, well, look, I have the photos here, I have our WhatsApp here. You could read it in whole Germany. So what was the result of it? This CEO had to leave the company, and we stood in the middle of a change without having our management board who could lead us through this process. And it was 30,000 people.
But it was only the CEO leaving. It was not the entire management team. So I would expect in every good corporate that, the organization does not only depend on one person, even not on a CEO.
Yeah, but absolutely right. We're still in both companies, I think, we are still in the process. So when we are saying, well, compliance is the first step, to be integer is an even bigger step, then I would say in both companies, we're still in big parts on the path of trying to be compliant. So having the legal compliance really in our scale. So this is, for me, it's a first agreement on the compliance, like on processes, on being legal compliant, to have maybe the customer needs in focus, but really to have the step further. You don't have it, as I could say out of my past, it's not in the entire companies, but there are departments who start to think like it. There are people who are starting to try to organize the people. There are role models everywhere in both companies.
That's exactly what you said right now. It's not only about the regulatory compliance and all these legal compliance parts we have, because corporate integrity is much more, including these aspects. But the more we can work on corporate integrity, sometimes also by individuals or departments, as you said before, I think the more we can also reach and protect our assets. And then it really goes back to quality management and safety, because at the end, corporate integrity is nothing more, or it is protecting our most valuable assets, including the stakeholders and also shareholders, but also the values we have within the firm, including reputation. Absolutely. So have you ever been exposed to such dilemma situations personally? Have you ever felt under pressure?
Yes, I did. For example, we had situation like a big offer in China. It was Beijing, and my at that time, my CEO came up to me and said, well, we have a student from China. Could you take care of her? Because I had at that time a student in my department who was able to speak Chinese. I said, well, yes, bring her over. Let's have, and make sure that she's happy. Okay, I try to make everyone happy. And then I started to think about it and said, well, that was a little bit weird. So I called him up and said, well, what do you mean make her happy? And she doesn't need to work as much as the others. So make like little trips with her and don't care about the money. So we have a budget for this. And there it was a point where I said, well, listen, who is this girl? And she was one of the big customers' daughters. So she was really the daughter of the CEO. So and I said, well, listen, I take her in my office. We will do as much as we can that she's happy. But when you put her in my office, she's really like working as the others, and she will have as much fun as the others, and she will have as much trouble as the others. So then my CEO said, well, listen, you're not good for this. And he took this girl in another department. Anyhow, she stayed with us most of the time because I had this young lady who spoke Chinese. But the funny thing about it, this girl liked us more because we were transparent. We were really like we are. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, if you're staying here for a day, you have to work like we are. And she was really like a girl, wanted not to be in a fancy restaurant, but she wanted to be in the organization and learn. But I had not the promotion this year. So it was really like having an impact on me personally.
It's crazy, but I think you're not the only one. And I see that all every day, sometimes, also at our client side, that people at the end, they are really, like you are penalized due to your behavior, which was correct. You did exactly what everybody would also tell you to do. Also, when you go back to your code of conduct, it's clear that you're not able to do that. And it was also not expected by that lady to be treated like it was requested for to do so for you. So it is really the world we are still living in, and it always depends on the people. And I think not all the people you have in the organizations behave like that. Not at all. That's what we see. You have between 1% to 5% acting like that. Mm-hmm. What is the experience you have? Do you see more than we see?
I think in general, I would agree. I think there's a difference when you're going into the organization, when you are making a difference between departments. Mm-hmm. So when you have like an R&D department or like this nitty-gritty people who are really working because it is something they really want to make an effort in. It's like quality management. It's not the people who are really dealing with the customers, who have the pressure of goals like you have to bring this customer home, you have to make the deal. So there it might be a difference between the departments. So I can say from my perspective, the departments I led, safety, quality management, the people which were really in my department were more in the case of doing these processes were aligned with the mindset, more or less. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But when you go like to departments like sales, marketing, there is a pressure, a different one.
Absolutely. And, I think it's also inherently with the position they have in and with the targets they have. So that's also what we see. They are more exposed, and we also have to make sure that we protect them. Because what I see is also it's not fair if you have the too high targets for these people being responsible for sales and after sales. And at the end, they are sanctioned because of their behavior, because they are just under such a pressure. That's also what we discuss when we talk about the fraud triangle. If the pressure is high enough and people have no way out, they become very creative.
And it's human.
Yep.
You have to protect them yourself. And when the pressure is like you're making something like you make the deal or you don't make the deal, you have the pressure and somebody is telling you, and I just heard it yesterday. So if you're not making this deal, then we have to unemploy a percentage of our employees. Wow, that is a pressure I don't want to have.
Absolutely. So what would you tell your future, your younger self now, when you look back for the last 20 years? What would you tell you?
So being in the departments I've been in, it was still more easy to be integer, but I would say be more proud, be more stable, be more standing up for what you're thinking than being afraid of what could happen with you. Because in the end, you can always make a decision. If the company not suiting your mindset and you are not able to change, then change the company. But as long as you have the idea you can change something within the company, I would think I've done not so bad. So I stayed most of the times, I fight it most of the times. And I would say, well, be more proud of it, be more self-confident about it. So I was always like, oh, am I doing right? Am I doing wrong? So maybe it's just me thinking like that, because 20 years ago, it was a different mindset than today. So today it's even much better than 20 years ago. And being honest, the story with this Chinese girl is about 15, 17 years ago. So I was really lonely with my decision at that time. I was like, oh, maybe it was wrong, but it felt right what I did. But I had a hard time to convince myself doing the right thing. And that is something I would say to my younger one. Be convinced this is the right path and don't let somebody else push you in another direction.
And what is your wish for the future generation? I know you're also a mother of a young girl. What would you wish for that new generation coming up, dealing with a different environment also from a regulatory perspective? Is there a wish you would like to share with us?
I would really wish that she can work in an environment where these questions are no longer topics. Like it has to be understood that it's not just a nice to have topic or a good wish topic, but it is an important topic. And compliance is sometimes, as you said in the beginning, a thing on paper, but really be doing the step forward and say, well, an integer person is doing right, is doing good, and the environment should be more easy for our kids. That is a wish for myself. And then the whole topic about pushing people would change as well. And you can see when you have contact to, and I know you have, to Singapore, they have as a entire state, they are so much working like, oh, I can't do this. I can't go out for having dinner with you. I can't. It's a little bit too much sometimes because the funny parts are missing there a little bit. But in general speaking, they know what to do. They don't doubt anything about it. This is the right path and I'm doing well when I'm following this and I can be integer and can be proud of myself when I do so.
So, Kathrin, thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to meeting you soon out in the field, bringing quality and safety to the next level, also combined with our corporate integrity approach to protect our most valuable assets, but also to make your wish come true for the next generation. It was great to have you here.
Thank you so much. And whenever you feel like contacting me, just do so.
I think also our listeners, as you told me before, you are also accepting invitations from LinkedIn and any other social media. I don't know where you are, but at least LinkedIn. So you would also accept that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I would be happy about this.
Okay, perfect. So now I wish you a great day and thank you very much again.
Thank you so much.
This was today's episode of The Human Factor Corporate Integrity Matters with our guest Kathrin Cornelius. Following the motto, corporate integrity secures and empowers individuals and organizations. Thank you for listening. My name is Sonja Stirnimann and I'm your host. Stay curious, actionable and a role model. Take care and goodbye. Would you like to learn more, meet peers and getting qualified? So visit the website Corporate Integrity Concepts or Corporate Integrity Academy. Or do you think this podcast could be interesting for someone you know? Sharing is caring, and we are always happy to welcome your peers to our community. And if you like this episode, subscribe and don't miss any of the future ones. The show notes are, of course, enriched with relevant information, and your connection via any of the social media channels is highly appreciated and will be answered. Promised. And please do not forget, topics of your interest or interview partners are highly welcome. Just send me a note on any of the channels you know.